Welcome back to Number Screen with yours truly, Tom Ellsworth, the Biz Doc. 5 big things happening this week. The first, national debt versus deficit, which is which and what's happening. Then job cuts by state, some surprises for you, followed by Black Friday spending. Which way did it go? The direction you probably thought. Then who's in, who's out at the holiday dinner table. And lastly, Fed cuts. Big change. Watch for it. Okay, first up, national debt versus deficit. Let's talk about it, which is which. Let's take a look here. This chart shows the deficit over time. Now, the green line would be the line that our spending would be above if we only spent the tax dollars we make. So the government has been consistently, since 1960, spending more than it brought in. And if you take a look here, here's 2000, that's 9/11, and then all those wars in the Middle East and the cost of that. Look at the amount of deficit spending. The farther you go below the green line, the more excess you're spending. This is the annual deficit. So the deficit, every year we spend more than we take in. Then you got the Obama years, the Affordable Care Act, and believe it or not, it turned around. The deficit trimmed a little bit under Obama. And then came 2016 and COVID, and the whole thing is on a path to hell, because you look at the size of the deficit, we're trying to drive it back up and close the gap. But even right here, we're not yet back to where we were. We have to get above the line so that we're not spending our grandchildren's tax dollars. Then this is just a sheer path to hell here. That's the deficit. That's every year what the government does. But what's the cumulative effect? Think of this as every year is every month, and you spend more on a credit card. Every time you get that bill, it's bigger and bigger and bigger over time until you're only paying interest. Well, that's where we are. I've lined this up together, 2005, 2020, 2015, so you can see this is the total debt. So this was the monthly spending on the credit card, and this is the total bill on the credit card, where we are heading for $40 trillion. This has to turn around. This is what many of you asked in the comment section about deficit versus debt. What's the difference? Deficit, that's what we spend every year. We want to see zero deficit spending, a balanced budget amendment, and more from our somewhat responsible and mostly irresponsible representatives in Washington, so that what can happen here is we start taking this eventually down. Because at $40 trillion, we're entering a time where we're only going to be paying interest on the federal debt every year rather than bringing it down. And that's another reason why President Trump wants interest rates to come down, because guess what? What's the interest we pay here? It's the interest rate that you see, the Fed rate. That's what we pay on our debt. Next up, job cuts by state. What have you been told? What have you been hearing? What have you been reading? Oh, it's better in the red states than it is in the blue states. Well, let's take a look. First of all, let's look at the top. We were 2024, there were 761,000 job cuts, at least according to data from Challenger, Gray, and various associations, U.S. Census Bureau, that went with that. However, this year, we're already seeing 1.1 million cuts just through October. So more cuts are happening this year than happened last year. What's hiding in there is job growth, and job growth has been kind of flat this year. So in other words, we have net job losses, regardless of the stock exchange being up and all the indices being up, is much different than job cuts. That's why they say that on one hand, you have Main Street, and on the other hand, you have Wall Street. So where are the job cuts? Is it blue or red? Let's find out. You look at California, the darker colors on here are more job cuts as a percent. You've got some blue states here, California, Washington, New York, and yes, New Jersey, 64,000 cuts just in New Jersey alone. That's pretty severe. Those are blue states. However, Georgia has been a typically red state, although it's gone back and forth in the last two presidential elections. And certainly Texas is not a blue state, and Florida's not a blue state. But you can see the darker states are in fact the blue states. Usually governors that do not have strong economic growth-oriented policies that are more socialistly or liberally oriented, the job cuts don't lie. Words talk, numbers scream. These are the people that are screaming because they've lost their job. So when you take a look from the smallest job losses to the highest job losses, the darker the red, the more it's hurting these people. Well, you take a look here and you look at Wyoming, Montana, and think there's been very, very few job cuts. Red states that are pro-growth or lightly populated with more stable economies have seen it. That's the truth of what's going on. So if you got friends that are feeling it, depending on where they are, what they're feeling is probably true. And so were you spending on Black Friday? Or were you recovering from Thanksgiving? Or maybe doing a little of both and just sitting in front of the computer, taking advantage of online AI-driven selection and cyber deals that you didn't have to wait for Cyber Monday to get? Take a look at this. 3x from 2015 to 2025. So in 10 years, it's amazing. We went 3x in 10 years. The total from over $3 billion to over $11 billion in Black Friday online sales over that period, which means you hear about malls closing, stores closing. It's true, but it doesn't mean that American is not spending its hard-earned dollars on gifts over Black Friday. It's very, very real. Now, who's getting the benefit? Let's go take a look at holiday spending in general. Now that we can see where Black Friday is going, so it's probably going to be a pretty good retail fourth quarter. Amazingly so. The concern is it's going to be more on American credit cards and more on BNPL, which is buy now, pay later, also known as buy now, pour later, because the interest rates are high. So if you miss those payments on BNPL, it's very, very bad. And there have been historically high delinquency rates in each of the last two first quarters as BNPL people are waiting for American shoppers to make payments, and a lot of them are late. So if this is driven by some BNPL and then we're late in January for payments, that's bad for the economy. It means a good holiday leads to a tight first quarter as spending goes down and delinquencies are up, and that's bad. But let's go to what's good. When it comes to holidays, who's on the naughty or nice list? I'll tell you who's on the nice list. Mom. Mother's Day. Take a look at Mother's Day was up in 2025. Father's Day is behind. They spend actually 20% more on mom than dad. That's probably the right way to do it. Easter spending, believe it or not, there still is a lot of Easter spending, also known as spring break spending, as people are out looking for deals as the summer is approaching. Valentine's Day, we know what that's all about. That's pretty amazing. Take a look at Valentine's Day is as big as Easter and just a little bit beyond Dad. It's one single day and it's disproportionately represented by restaurant spending. Then you have Halloween. Halloween, where we spend half as much as Mother's Day is spent on Halloween. It's pretty amazing when you think of that's candies, costumes, and parties and event compared to the gifts that are bought at retail for mom. I guess that's the way it goes. And then we get to the winter holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, and Festivus for the rest of us, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, where $1 billion will be spent, and that doesn't include New Year's, because the cutoff here on the data is December 31st. And it's amazing what gets spent over the winters. That's fourth quarter, and that's what's driving. And so you can see Black Friday driving in, because November 1st, December 31st, Black Friday is right about there. It's halfway through the spend. And that is the story of Black Friday. Hopefully this is sensible spending and credit card balances aren't through the roof and BNPL isn't going to end up and be in a deficit situation where payments are late, which hurts consumers and also hurts the economy. Hopefully everybody bought nice gifts for people they love and they were sensible in doing so. Now let's find out who's at the dinner table. So when it comes to the holiday time, you can invite people over. You can bring your crazy Uncle Larry, your crazy Aunt Jane, and the cousins that you don't mention because you really don't necessarily get along with them. But will you be bringing them there if they disagree with you politically? Are there other reasons that are going at the dinner table? A Fox News poll told us Republicans, believe it or not, 86% Republicans will say, I don't care how you feel, your family, I will probably invite you to dinner. It will not cause me to not invite you because I don't agree. And maybe we'll come to some agreement. Only 13% of Republicans said, nah, I will just avoid you altogether. Would avoid you dinner. Whereas Democrats, almost a third, 30% said they would avoid you. 68% said they wouldn't. So overall, you have got a 76% chance, 1 in 4 chance of being invited to dinner, whether they agree with you or not. I actually think that is good news because getting together and being able to process issues and maybe talk some sense into each other is what America needs, not more divide. And when it comes to food, we get together and we eat. and maybe get together and drink some eggnog. And maybe we all need a little bit of eggnog and kind of turn down the heat this holiday season. Now on to the Fed odds. The odds are changing like the stock market every day. It's getting pretty exciting and pretty concerning simultaneously. And since we're talking about holidays and we're talking about getting together with family members, we were talking about the amount of spending on Black Friday, we were talking about so many things. Let's talk about what will the Fed put under the Christmas tree on December 10th, right here. Will it be at a quarter point or a half a point? Well, we went to our friends at Kalshi and we took a look at the chart, what they have. And look what a ride we've been on. We are sitting right now, December 1st, where it looks like there's an 89% chance we're going to get a quarter point cut right here under the Christmas tree. Or maybe it's a little early for Christmas, but it'll be right there. And we're happy. But look what we've just gone through not even a month ago. Here's November 1st. We were getting into November, about November 10th, 12th. All of a sudden, things change. Look at this madness, listening to comments by the Fed, by Jerome Powell, or other people interpreting what Jerome Powell was saying. And we were not happy. We were down here at about 30%. Right there, it was looking like there would only be a 30% chance of a 25 basis point cut. We need these cuts for mortgages and a lot of other things and interest on the national debt to go down. So since that time, we've seen a very steady bounce. So it was really interesting. 1 week we went down, later the week we went back up, and we've been going all the way up to today. And so the Kalshi prediction market is saying 89% chance on a cut based on $17.7 million that has been put up by the Kalshi audience, thinking that there will be a 25 basis cut in the Fed rate on December 10th. So there it is under the Christmas tree. We're going to be unwrapping that present right there. That will help the mortgage market a little bit. That will help interest on the federal debt a little bit. And hopefully it gives the economy time to continue to recover as we try to move into the phase that we're making jobs and building them to offset job cuts and to generate energy in the economy. So that's what the people that are participating in Kalshi think, but what do you think? We want to know what you think. Put comments down below. Let us know what you think about the Fed or any of the other topics today on Numbers Scream. And if we could run numbers for your business, contact us at Bet David Consulting. We'd love to sit down, help you structure where you're going, and stay tuned for a very important Bet David Consulting event coming up that you won't want to miss. I'm Tom Ellsworth, the BizDoc, and I hope I left you better than I found you.